and I would like to call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Surratt, would you call the roll, please?
Chairperson Childers,
Here.
Vice Chair Dyer,
Here.
Secretary Surratt here, Commissioner Brown,
Here.
Commissioner Stamps,
Here.
all present.
Okay, all 5 commissioners are present. I would like to declare a quorum. Commissioners, you have received the agenda by email several days ago, probably Thursday, and had a chance to look it over. I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I have reviewed the minutes of the previous meeting with Cheryl, and I would like to move to approve them.
Okay, hang on. You're one step ahead. We're at agenda. We have to approve the agenda. Yes.
Madam Chair, I'd like to, on approved agenda, I had a request to put the marina on the agenda because the person wasn't here for the workshop and the sound didn't come through. But I've asked district manager if he wouldn't update as much as possible about the marina discussion we had last week. And he said he would be glad to do that. And maybe any other commissioners could add to his comments. But so I'm not asking to amend the agenda for that, but to make it part of his discussion.
Okay. Are you making a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes, after that comment.
Okay.
Right.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved. All right, now.
Sorry about that.
Now.
My apologies.
That's okay. That's all right. Commissioner Surratt, we will turn toward you. You've had an opportunity to look at last month's minutes.
I did.
As every other.
Cheryl and I reviewed the minutes. She did her usual wonderful job.
Yes.
And I move that we approve the minutes as printed.
Second.
Ken Brown seconds the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
And I have to agree with Commissioner Surratt. The minutes are excellent. Doing an excellent job.
Yeah, I count it as a bonus if I capture it anything.
Yeah, that's right.
And timely.
And very timely. Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Good job.
All right, I don't believe we have any ceremonial items to attend to. Do we have any announcements?
I have one announcement, Madam Chair. In the paper, if you get the Sunday Arkansas Democrat Gazette, and you get the Parade magazine in with that paper, most days it's on the web, on your computer. But this is an article on Parade. The front cover says pickleball, and inside is a very big story about pickleball.
I saw that.
And I want to take this opportunity to thank the board and the taxpayers here for improving the pickleball courts. There's anywhere from 12 to 14 players down at our courts every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They're there from about 8 to 10, and by 10 with this 100 degrees heat, they're gone home. But we have a lot of visitors come, and they can check in the rec center, and the area is locked because to prevent some problems there. But anyway, this is a really a good, this is the fastest growing activity in sport for anybody over 55 in the country. And we have 2 really, really nice courts. And I'd like to thank the board for approving those improvements. And go on down there and call Janice, and we can get somebody to teach you how to play the game. So it's really a good thing for a holiday hour. Thank you.
And I have read the same thing, that it's one of the fastest growing sports in the nation.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yes.
I'm Barb Talbot, 9 Horseshoe Drive, Holiday Island. I just wanted to give you just a brief update on the Chamber's activity. As you know from last month, we were very fortunate that our president, Tracy Graham, has purchased the building where the Chamber is currently located, 1 Park Drive. Tracy recognizes the importance of the contribution to the community and the importance of the growth of the Chamber of Commerce. And she has generously agreed to relocate the chamber office to the front lobby, and it will be manned every day that her business is open, from Tuesday through Saturday, all day. So we are making those changes to accommodate the people that are more and more just showing up from out of town, and even people that are local. Also, we had originally scheduled the business after hours at the marina for this month. Because of the weather conditions, we're going to change that so people can live through it and enjoy it. So we will be having that in September, and we'll be announcing the date of that to come down and enjoy an evening down at the marina and all that Colin will have to offer that day. September the 11th, as you know, it was a big celebration last year. We've made some changes. We've deleted things that didn't work. We've added a lot of things that did work and know that will work even better. And it includes, of course, the ceremonials by the powers that be, and there will be a special dedication of a monument that is to commemorate the first responders. So I will be approaching HICID and other organizations to take part in that honor of that ceremony and the day itself. We'll have 3 different entertainment options for the day. Can't tell you because I've been away, so I'll ask your forgiveness on that. I'll have more details on it. But we're going to wrap up the day, and I believe that hour is from 6 to 7, to have the Young Americans come in, and they will be dedicating a very honorable selection in what they're going to do to honor that day as well. And I know everybody looks forward to the Young Americans, and this will be very special for that. So mark your calendars for September 11th. We'll be giving out flyers and other advertisements. But who doesn't want to honor that day that no one will ever forget? Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for all you do for the chamber and for coming and letting us know what's going on. Do you, off the top of your head, know what the address is for the chamber?
1 Park Cliff Drive.
1 Park.
We're going to be in the main lobby entrance. If you went to the Christmas program last year, it's where we had Christmas Wonderland. And we're going to be right there in the lobby, just ready to serve people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other announcements? Yes.
Your Zoom broadcast has a back echo. Does somebody have their phone on next to their mic maybe?
My phone's turned on.
Mine's off.
No.
I think the mics are, any of them are working, so. Yeah, I think all the mics are off. I don't get much on.
No, they don't work in here.
We actually talked about recording with a cell phone, but I decided not to do it, I don't think. Are we actually doing an audio?
We are recording.
We are recording. All right. Good. Good. All right. Any other announcements? Thank you, Al. If we knew how to solve it, we would. All right. Any public comments? Okay. Let's move to reports. And Deputy Engel, the Sheriff's report.
All right. So last month, June of 22, we had 193 calls for service. We made 29 traffic stops last month, 15 citations and 14 warnings. Worked 5 accidents, had 4 alarm calls, 4 agency assist, 5 animal calls, 6 citizen assist calls, 6 civils, 7 civil process, 1 criminal mischief, 1 commercial burglary, we had 2 domestics, and 33 extra patrols, 41 follow-ups. We had 3 frauds, 1 gunshots, 5 harassments, 1 lost or found property, 2 motorist assist, 1 noise complaint, 3 reckless drivers. We had 3 stolen vehicles last month, 1 suicidal person. We had 8 suspicious vehicle or suspicious people calls. 4 thefts, 1 threats, 1 traffic hazard, 3 trespassing, 1 attended death, 4 unattended vehicles, 5 welfare checks, 2 911 open line or hangups with 1 felony arrest and 2 misdemeanor arrests. So definitely,
Welcome to
summer months are a lot busier. It's kind of odd. It's kind of been the same way with this month as well. When it's been over 100, we saw it dip down, where just the county itself was a lot slower. And then whenever it broke down in the 90s, it was like, hey, everybody decided to come out and play again. Been pretty busy.
Well, I have a question on the citations. I think last month there were only 3, and this month out of 29, you did 15, or somebody did 15. Is that to send a little message to slow that down?
Well, I mean, a lot of them end up being, it's about half locals and half out-of-towners. And real, depends on what the traffic violation is. Just depends on what they're doing and how fast they're going.
You think several of them are workmen and trucks and plumbers, carpenters?
Don't get many of those. Get a couple, but not that many. One question I do have is, it's a question that I get asked a lot, especially now that, I guess the city has hired a code enforcement officer. People are always asking me, and I'm like, I don't have anything to do with that, about ordinances and stuff like that and what they're doing. Are there any ordinances that they passed, that you guys have passed, that they're gonna start enforcing as far as like the animals or nothing like that
We
yet?
have a nuisance ordinance and a trash ordinance, but nothing for animals.
What's the nuisance?
Read the ordinance.
Okay, well,
I can get you.
yeah.
It's on our website.
Okay.
It's one of the last ordinances we passed, I think, maybe the
Okay.
second last one. So, but it's a variety of things from, it's mostly things like, rundown property, junk
Okay.
vehicles,
Got it.
stuff like that.
Sweet. Help clean up stuff. Okay. This is a question that I get asked, because most animal calls that we get are, dogs of large, aggressive animals, and in the same law, we can't enforce, it's not a vicious animal until it actually bites someone, which is terrible. That it actually has to make contact and bite a person or another animal before it becomes vicious. So I know that the leash law, stuff like that, or the ordinances have definitely been very beneficial to the community and stuff. So.
Just out of curiosity, and because somebody was bound to ask us sooner or later, do you know what the final disposition on the famous yellow golf cart turned out to be? Was there?
There was a warrant issued for the guy that stole it. To my knowledge, they still have not located him yet.
Okay, all right.
The gentleman that we caught in the car was not the one who stole it. He was just the one that was joyriding it. So the detectives did their investigation, and they've got a warrant out on the guy.
Okay,
And now we just gotta find him.
thank you, because it'll come up sooner or later.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the deputy?
I did call the dispatch the other day.
What'd you have?
And I was coming over here to sign checks, and there was a gigantic tractor trailer loaded with concrete.
Okay, state line in Holiday Island?
Came around the corner,
Yep.
and when I came back 10, 15 minutes later, he was stuck on the hill up there by Eagle Drive, or Hawk Drive.
Okay.
And so I came home and called, and then a few minutes later, he went flying by. So I called him back and told him he was gone, and it was probably too late for a ticket.
Yeah.
He was, I thought he was stranded there, and was gonna have to offload or something before he could get up that hill.
Makes it tough.
Yeah,
Yeah, we were headed to an accident whenever that call came in.
yeah,
We
yeah,
had 3 calls that came in back to back out here.
yeah. Well, I did call him back and call dispatcher back and say,
Yeah, they called
never
and said
mind.
it would
Yeah.
been moved
Yeah.
or whatever, so.
Yeah, well, it was in kind of a bad spot too. It was on the hill, and the guy came up around behind me pretty quick. So,
There's definitely a lot of people that drive excessively.
yeah,
And it's only one of us.
I get it.
Any other comments, questions for the deputy? Thank you, sir.
And we do have the substation is now marked. We got all of our decals done over the weekend. So the big sign up top says Holiday Island, or it says Carroll County Sheriff Holiday Island Substation. And then it's marked on the door and everything. So it's,
Good.
you can't miss it now. So hopefully
Excellent.
Good.
Very
You
good.
will have questions.
Do you get a lot of walk-ins when you're there?
Yeah, more people just stopping in to talk and visit.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
No. Sometimes I have to park in the back.
To get anything
Keeps you
done.
from your work.
Yeah, it really does. Like, I've got a lot of reports to do. It's hard when people keep on coming in. And I love the company, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's just like, all right, I guess I can.
Well, Corporal, your vigilance about the speeding issue, I think we all continually get complaints from citizens about that. And I know my suggestion that we put a few speed bumps out there was poo-pooed by the board, but I stand by that, and I think it would be a good remedy.
We have one on Holiday Island. We got one just about every 100 foot on Holiday Island.
Call over there.
They cold patched some of those
Yeah.
the last week.
Every road cut.
And we can enforce the speeding every single day. And the second I leave or
Yeah.
the next one's there.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
It's hard.
Everybody's in a hurry.
Yeah.
Thank
You
you.
bet.
All right, Mr. Presley, District Manager's Report. Tell us what's going on.
Yes, ma'am. Well, as you probably have noted, the financial information is under new business. So,
And that was at my request, because my understanding is that we have to make a motion to accept those. And I continually forgot to do it because it wasn't written in a way where we needed to make a motion. So I asked for that.
true, that's a good idea, so we don't forget to actually formally approve those. What I do want to mention under reports is the marina. We discussed that last week. I know that we had some problems with the audio, and so some people didn't get that information. And Barbara, I would be happy to meet with you at some point if you would like additional information about the marina, but we're going to be sending that out just in the next few days here. And, we discussed the cost sharing and profit sharing for the boat slips. If you were to rent every boat slip down there at its current price, it amounts to about $205,000. And so one of the points of negotiation in this new contract will be, how do we share that revenue? And, it seems like there's kind of a tipping point there between being able to provide the operator a generous share of that revenue for the boat slips so that they can put that money back into the marina in terms of capital improvements. For example, Colin wants to rebuild entirely dock number 1 and have a restaurant and have a shop there and have additional fuel stations so that he can accommodate 3 or 4 boats coming in to fuel up all at the same time, and expand his menu, expand his services, and expand his fleet of rentals, both boats and jet skis and that sort of thing. So we want to look at various ideas, and that's the reason we're going to send this out for RFPs. I hope to get some creative ideas with the RFPs that come in. We have 3 people that have expressed interest in submitting a proposal. But when we send that out, we don't want to send it out just open-ended. We want to have some parameters already established in there. And so that's what we're looking to do. We've started that process. I've amended that agreement over the last month 3 or 4 times, met with Colin at length to get his ideas. And I'm happy to share that with any person. I've already shared it with another gentleman who's interested in submitting a proposal, because I think it's kind of that marketplace of ideas. It's good for different people to look at that, have ideas, have proposals. We may find someone else who says, hey, I'm willing to do this percentage plus this much investment. And I also think that I'm not sure exactly how we should structure this. But there should be some mile markers in there along the way for investment, because that's what our marina needs. It needs a breath of fresh air. It needs some reinvestment for the walkways, the buildings, the store, the slips, and all of that. And so we'll see what we get.
Danny, thanks for that update, and others, commissioners might come up with some other things that were discussed there for about a half hour. But one of the confusing things, I think, for the bidders on an RFP will be when we toured the marina a couple months ago, and now at the meeting last Monday, Colin has some ideas about expansion, the restaurant, the store, and so forth. If you're coming from Lowell, Arkansas, you don't know about those things. I mean, you know there are 4 docks and there are 171 slips or whatever, but I think it puts the other bidders at a disadvantage if they don't know that they should be bidding on improving the store, having some more rental boats. We talked about more gas, more room for gas fueling. In other words, there's 2 pumps and 2 boats are there, and there's some people sometimes circling around. I've done that before, and waiting to get up to the pumps to fuel, and it could be a safety factor. But is there anything in there that the bidders could come and look at what was proposed? So we're dealing with apples and apples instead of oranges and oranges and apples. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir, and in principle, I agree with what you're saying. I think we need to put that out there. I think that needs to be overtly stated in this RFP, that we require some capital investment on the store and the restaurant and the fuel pumps and some of those other items.
But have we decided that we're gonna take away the slips on that whole side of the dock
No.
and make a
No,
restaurant out of it?
No,
That is
My
not smart.
expectation for this process is that we will get these RFPs in with probably a variety of ideas, business models, proposals for capital investment and all that, and then we can sit here and kind of peruse through that and determine what we feel like is is best for the future of the marina and go from there. So as far as I'm concerned, there's been no decisions made except that we need to take a close look at the revenue sharing on the $205,000 worth of boat slip rentals. And we're going to require some capital investment, and that there should be some timelines in there for when that investment should occur. And I feel like that's where we're at. And I'm certainly open to ideas from the board because I plan to get that out probably in the next week.
I think there should be some level of sharing on the part of the leaseholder of the revenues that are generated, that the monies that he generates
Yes, sir.
using our facility, which would require some kind of accurate reporting of financials and,
Yes, sir.
I
I think that's very important, Commissioner, and thank you for mentioning that, because that is a part of the equation.
yeah.
When you look at concessions and boat rentals and fuel, there were about, now this is not an exact number, but about $650,000 worth of gross sales. That includes the boat slip rentals. $600 and something thousand gross sales that came through the marina in 2021. And so revenue sharing for some of that, whether it's 5%, 10%. And once again, it's kind of that, it's the marketplace of ideas. How do you structure that? What's fair? And what is a win-win to place the operator in a financial position so that he or she can reinvest and also make a fair profit. So thank you for mentioning that, because that definitely...
Commissioner Brown, to your question, I can't imagine anybody would put together a proposal and place a bid to lease a facility for 5 years. If they hadn't been here and touched it and smelled it and,
Yeah, I agree. But Colin's been here for more than 5 years, and so he has the advantage of what his dreams are, what his goals are. But that's why I asked the question last week of the restrooms that were put on the dock. He bought those from Starkey's Marina, I believe, and I was wondering how much that he has invested, that if he doesn't get the bid on January 1, what do we owe him?
Yes.
And do we owe him anything for the improvements to the store, new walls and equipment, or does that all leave when if another bidder takes over? So it's a little bit, I appreciate what he's done, but I think we're the only publicly owned marina in the area. Starkey's is private, Big M is private, Eagle Rock is private, and I don't know, some of the state parks, of course, are all state-owned. So we're dealing with a real different type of project here and the other question I have, going toward Mr. Stamp's concern, is every slip is full right now, every slip.
Plus a waiting list. Plus a waiting list.
Yeah, waiting list. And
Yes,
that's
sir.
the way it was 15 years ago when I waited a year for a slip. You had to put $100 down. And that's good. That's really a great thing for us. But if you take out 4, 6, or 8 slips to put in more revenue producing stores and beer and pizza and so forth, you've got 6 or 8 people that aren't going to have a place to put their boat. And the only way to look at that is to build more slips. We talked about that, and the return on investment is very poor. We all agree with that, I think.
Yes, sir.
So, I appreciate what you're doing, and I think if anybody needs more information, or if you know of anybody who wants to bid, I think Danny would be available to go down there, look it over, explain everything, because we want an even playing field here, or at least I do. When I vote for the bidder for January 1, 2023, I want to know that we've given everybody 100% of the information in order for them to make a bid.
If I could add one more thing to your point, that was one of the provisions that needs to be added, is that the current amenities that are there will stay there and become the property of Holiday Island, and future amenities that are added and built on will become the property of Holiday Island, of the district. I don't think it makes sense to build semi-permanent structures and then want to tear them out and take them with you at the end of the contract.
No.
That just doesn't make sense,
No.
so.
But Danny, will he be reimbursed? That's why I asked the
No,
question
no,
about the
no.
rest.
If he puts them in there, he's just adding to the property of the boat dock, period.
you rent a
That's-
house
That's
and
his,
have to replace the toilet. You don't get to take the toilet with you.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions about the marina?
I've always taken.
Linda?
Linda?
Poor
Just wanted to make a note, if we're looking at potentially expanding the docks or adding on another area to the docks, I would bet that might be some core restrictions, or that
There are.
people need
They
to
are.
be aware that,
There are.
you know, you can only build it out so far.
Kevin spoke
and
about
then
that.
they're limited, but I hope you include that in the bid packages too.
I have a meeting scheduled with Michael Hurley, who is like the district manager, I guess, and he oversees this particular marina. His office is in Rogers. We actually had a meeting scheduled last week and he had to cancel, but we'll be meeting again
With the Corps?
soon.
He's with the Corps.
Yes, he's with the Corps of Engineers and he is the manager over this area and this marina.
What's his name again, please?
Michael Hurley,
Thank you.
H-U-R-L-E-Y.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Colin had spoken to the Corps prior to making the proposal last year during
Yes,
our
sir.
budget preparation. And so, yeah,
Yeah, he's
you know,
aware.
either,
I would have bet he would have. I
Yeah.
was worried about other bidders knowing that there's some issues there.
They should be well.
I will say that the other two are marina operators in this area. In fact, both of whom work on Table Rock Lake at other marinas. So
They know the core.
they know the core, and it's definitely some strict regulations.
Thank you, Dan.
They've got a serial number for every tree.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
But
Yeah,
Including the ones below the surface.
I can tell you this, they are the same throughout the entire United States of America.
Sure.
I will say this, when I spoke to Mr. Hurley, and I've talked to him a couple of times, he was not what I expected. You think of big government, and, he was very warm and engaging and helpful. And, he told me, he said, we simply want Holiday Islands Marina to be successful. We will work with you, we'll meet with you, I'm available anytime. Come and see me if you have a concern. And that was his approach. So I feel really comfortable as we move into this next contract. And even 7 years from now, when we have to renew our contract with the Corps of Engineers, I feel very comfortable in working with them.
That was the nugget that you shared at the meeting a week ago that caught my attention.
Mine
because,
too.
That's a little scary that.
7 years.
In 7 years, if the Corps decided they didn't like us anymore, this could all go away. So, we need to do this right.
Yes, sir.
I will say this, the Corps at Branson, or on Table Rock Lake, have been the best to work with that I've ever worked with. And I've worked with the Corps in South Carolina, Georgia, every place else. But they're quite good, and Richard Groves, who was the head of it back when, was kind enough that when the lake got down low, he permitted me to mine enough dirt out of the bottom of the lake to build the 9-hole course. That was a mountain,
So you dredged it out?
yes.
I'll be darned. Interesting.
Mr. Presley, anything else this morning? Can you tell us, have they completed the resurfacing that the road department had contracted for?
No, ma'am, I don't believe so. Now, I've not spoken to Mike Barnett yet this morning, but they said that was going to be a fast-moving project, that they would be in and out of here at no time. So I would think it'd be finished this week, but I don't have an update for you today.
All right, any questions? District manager's report? All right, let's move ahead. We did not have any old business. Our new business is to put the final seal on our American Tower offer for $625,000 for perpetual easement for the cell tower site on Holiday Island Drive. Our attorney has looked at all the paperwork, given his seal of approval on everything. And really the only thing left to be done is for us to actually accept the offer officially. Am I correct in that?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. All the changes have been made, which were very minimal.
Yeah, there were, I think, 2 minor things, and that was it.
Madam Chair, about how long, if we approve this in a few minutes, about how long would it take us to get the check in the bank? Not check sent to us, but presented to us. The check's in the mail, I know that story. Do you have an idea?
No, sir, I don't have an answer for that. I've not asked them that question.
Okay.
They move fast, I will say that.
Yeah.
Well, they're sitting up there waiting.
They had, when we requested those 2 minor changes to the agreement, I had the agreement back within probably 2 days.
Good.
So,
I'm sure they're as anxious.
And I had an opportunity to talk to someone that worked in the cell phone business for a long, long time who said, because I tend to agree with what you said the other day, almost everything has to be a win-win to make something work. And this person told me that what American Tower gets out of it is that they substantially can count on that tower from this point on. It takes any uncertainty that we might up and cancel the contract or anything else. So that's what they're going for, is just certainty. So, and he was also of the opinion that that was a pretty doggone good price that we had gotten. So Any comments, any questions? Not that I'm gonna have any answers, but
Madam Chair,
comments?
I have one more before I'd like to make a motion maybe. Councilmember, is Lynn here today? Lynn Dooms?
No.
Okay, Lynn Dooms made a comment a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, that by accepting this $625,000 sales price, we would be not receiving, and I know this sounds sort of silly, but we would not be receiving about $30,000 a year in rental income. Right, when you sell something, you get all the cash, then you don't get any here. But I think he made a good point in that we have to look at this money very carefully in terms of what we're going to do with it in the future after we get the check in the bank. And so I think it's a good time between now and October or so, November, when we do the budget for 2023, that I would really like to put in a dip for infrastructure improvement. Not salaries, not, well, paving is infrastructure, but I'd really like to see us. This is probably the largest amount of income that we'll ever get. I've been here 16 years, and it's the largest amount of money that I've seen come into the coffers at HISID. So we really have to be thoughtful, and I know we will be, about where it goes and what needs it meets the projects.
Yes, sir.
I tend to agree about that. I asked Mr. Presley to ask the accountant to set up a special account to put this in.
Mm-hmm.
The way I see it is we ought to take care of those things that are one-time expenses, that once it's done, it's done.
Right.
You know, and because this is to some degree found money. It's going to help us pay for the rec center. Of course, we'd already saved back $300,000 for that, but let's put it in a special account so we can make sure that it goes for things that are one-time capital improvement expenses, that when it's done. It's the way I was kind of looking at it. You know, I realize I'm only one person, but that's my thought, is we ought to maximize. There were a whole list of things that we couldn't get to last year when we were looking at
Absolutely.
maintenance law projects that needed to be taken care of. This could help do that.
I think Mayor Dan, I congratulate him when he was on the board. The commissioners did a wonderful job on pressure reducing valves, and we've installed, I think, 5 so far. And that would be an item, like the sheriff said, if we needed 4 more, 8 more, 6 more, whatever, that the money for those items would come out of a special fund, and we could maybe even hire a contractor to do it if our water department couldn't do it. But that's just one thing, that infrastructure would be a good idea.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other comments? Do I hear a motion to accept the offer?
I move that we accept the offer from American Tower for the sale of the land, whatever the title is, for the cell tower for $625,000.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Commissioner Brown has made a motion to accept the American Tower offer for $625,000 for a perpetual easement for the cell tower site. Commissioner Surratt has seconded. Would you poll the board, please?
I sure will. Chairwoman Childers,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dyer,
Yes.
Secretary Surratt, yes. Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Stamps.
Yes.
All in favor.
Okay. So the motion has passed to accept the American Tower offer. If you would notify them,
Yes,
make
ma'am.
them happy.
Sure will.
Along with our routing number and our wire transfer.
I'll make sure they have that information.
Good point.
And Danny, tell them we've read all 20 pages of this morning.
Yes,
Like
sir.
buying a house.
We sound like Hank Williams Jr.'s mom. When we had the Barn Steakhouse and we had entertainment up there, Hank Williams Jr. came here and Mama came with him. Mama stood at my front door every morning that he was here for that week, waiting for the check for that day to take it to the bank and cash it, or he did not play. So we sound like Hank Williams' mama.
I think they're anxious because I have noticed all that big you
Big
know,
rig up there.
the rig that's up there. And what they're doing is they're taking out some old equipment that was at the bottom and I'm sure upgrading it. So, yeah,
And
they're probably excited.
Part of it is my phone carrier.
Is it?
Yeah,
T-Mobile?
T-Mobile.
Yeah, T-Mobile's been really disrupted
Oh,
over the last 2
really?
weeks.
Oh.
I was in the
Uh,
office over there and they pointed out pulled up the map and the tower that they're working on is that tower.
That tower.
And I said, and I live right there.
I saw the big rack with all the rust on it and everything else, and I thought, they're pulling out that old equipment, and putting in new stuff. So I wondered what was going on.
I do have a question for the district manager, though. You know, I appreciate that they're periodically gonna have to do that, but they have that big old truck and a trailer, and it's all extended out in front of our fire station. I wonder how much longer, they've had that rig down now for a number of days, maybe a week. I wonder how much longer they're gonna be there, and if they have caused disruption for the fire department.
The tractor is gone. I noticed today, and only the rig is left, and it looks like it's gonna be there. a while.
Well, I just wonder if they're not waiting to get that other crane back. Because it probably had to go someplace for an emergency or
Yeah.
whatever to come back.
They've been doing a huge project up in Eagle Rock, not far from the fire department up there on the other side of the road. But, I don't know if the same company but maybe they have shuffled, like you say, they did.
I'm sure I'll
It
be
didn't-
talking
It
with,
didn't look to be.
Because they haven't
bothered.
fixed my day.
Haven't they?
My T-Mobile's not fixed yet.
My Verizon just works wonderful.
I'm happy with AT&T.
It isn't working out.
All right.
Verizon out there, and I have to leave.
Let's move ahead to looking at the 2021 cash flow. We've had several comments made over the last several months about the amount of quote-unquote profit that HICID made. And so I asked Danny and the accountant, I said, can we just look at this like we do at home with our own account? This is how much money we brought in, this is how much money went out, and
21.
when we look at the receivables, because we all know that we put like $2.5 million of receivables on the books each, but we don't get them, you know, right at that point. So let's actually look at how much money came in, how much money went out, and see, quote unquote, what kind of profit Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District made last year. So between Jennifer and Danny sending reports back and forth, we came up with these that we thought would maybe clarify for the board and for the community where we stand in this regard. So Danny, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. I understand a little bit, just enough to be dangerous, about enterprise fund accounting. And so we tried to boil this down to actual, as the chair described, actual money in, money out. And so if you look at the expenditures for,
Sorry.
that's okay, it's the other
It's the other chart.
that you have.
I went to move the screen up, but it toggled.
There you go.
There you go, 21 actual expenditures. And as you know, the actuals are always different than what you projected. I'll try to go through here and point out any anomalies. The roads department, that was pretty well on what we budgeted. However, we did not do the $220,000 capital project that roads had budgeted for 21, because we saved that money to partner with the city in 22. Administration. Just bear with me here. I'm just trying to see if there's anything that jumps out. Marina, the capital project's $405,000. A little over $100,000 of that was the new walkway for the marina. And don't remember what other capital projects that we had in '21. I was only here for the last part of that year. Golf equipment. And then you'll notice the last column, then next to the last column there, debt service for the sewer debt. That $365,000 is what we actually paid out to service the debt for the wastewater treatment plant. And so these are just raw numbers. This is the checks that we wrote. And they total $5,295,000 in 2021. So does anyone on the board have any questions about expenditures?
The improvements to the lobby here, back, I don't know, I think that was after you got here. Is that $30,000? Is that in that 405 you just
That's
mentioned?
this year.
It was,
Wasn't it?
I can't remember.
That was this year,
That was what?
wasn't it?
I don't remember.
It was
Was it
last
the end of
year.
last?
It may have been last
End of
year.
last
I
year.
think it was at
fair-
the end of
They were working
last
on it
year.
when I was inaugurated, or when I was.
I think it was November, December.
Yeah.
And it was around 16 to $17,000 is what we spent on this. And,
Things like that are what you would consider capital projects, right?
yes, sir.
Like the sidewalk and the office and so forth.
Yes, sir.
So
Okay.
405 altogether, roughly 405,000.
Yes, sir. Now, if you'll go to the blue chart, which is revenue, there it is. Revenue, I mean, you can see that generally roads does not generate revenue. When we do generate revenue in the roads department, it's basically a pass-through. Like if we install a culvert for someone, then, you know, we would call that revenue. Water, wastewater, that's, you know, right at $2 million there. And that's simply the revenue from the sale of water.
1.2.
I'm sorry, yeah, 1.2 million, yes, sir. Administration, the 16.9, the bulk of that is from our good neighbors who rent the office next to us. That comes into administration as revenue for the rental of that office space.
Because that's about $12,000, I think, a year.
Correct. General fund, 2.9 million. The vast majority of that is AOBs. And then also in that AOB, there is debt service on the AOB. They calculates into that also, that was brought in. Fire, there's a FireWise grant, the 833. And then thank you to our friends at the city who contributed, I believe, around $48,000 to the fire department. So that's shown here as revenue.
And the 833 money comes from the county
I think it's a
From the-
state.
I think
Foreign
that's
board?
state.
or state?
I think it's state.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Carroll County.
Or maybe it comes, I think it originates at the state and is dispersed
Distributed by the,
by county.
yeah.
The only thing I'll note here on the 18-hole course in the pro shop, you know, that's 337, right at $338,000. That was up slightly. Our golf revenue came back pretty strong in 21. Recreation center, restaurant, marina, clubhouse. Campground was up. Now, I know that's a small amount of money that we're dealing with, $28,000, but the campground was up in 21, and I noted, and we'll look at that here in a few minutes, that campground is doing pretty well again this year. And then also under revenue, interest earned, $21,455. The interest earned was on our investments, our CDs. And it was okay in 21. It is not okay in 22. Interest rates are just down. And I noticed as I was doing the monthly financials in the month of June, we earned like $200 on our CDs, and we've got $1.5 million in there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they should come back now.
Well,
Hopefully
we're not
it's
rolling
gonna-
them
The next
over.
time we roll them over.
Those are fixed, so until we roll them over, we're not gonna have the advantage.
hopefully we're gonna roll them over at a much higher rate.
Let's hope.
Not much.
Yeah,
Which
So-
side of that do you wanna be on?
yeah. Actual revenue, this is all the money that we brought in, $5,113,000. And so, actually, when you do the math, and I'm not showing it on here, but our expenditures were about $118,000 less than our revenue in 2021. And then,
Expenditures were more than our revenue.
yes, I'm sorry.
More, yes,
Yes, I misspoke.
yes,
Our expenditures were $118,000 more than our revenue
yes.
in 21. And then if you look on that next page, please, Cheryl. So we were left in a position with, we have had some money in the money market account, some investments, which we try not to touch those investments because we are required to maintain 35% reserves. And these were, and I remember being in this room and just struggling with having so many needs, buildings that are in disrepair, old equipment, trying to provide at least a cost of living increase for our employees. So we had, I think we set about 400 and something, 450 for expenditures for capital improvement projects, and these were the projects that rose to the top and for priority.
These are the
Yeah.
ones that when we looked at the projected 2022 income versus 2022 expenditures, there was a balance left, and so that's what we decided to spend that balance on.
Correct, and you'll note on here that the roughly $155,000 that we set aside for the recreation center is not listed here.
Yes.
Because that money essentially just carried over, and now hopefully in the next few months we'll be starting on that project. So, VRV replacements, I'm sorry.
Well, just to basically sum it all up, I hope that this helps the board and the community understand that we live on our income. We don't put stuff away. It takes every dime to run this place, and honestly, there are deferred maintenance issues that seriously need to be taken care of that we struggle to fund. So that was the main reason that I said, let's look at this just the way we do a household. Ignore all of the receivables that are on the books, because we don't know if we're going to get those, we're not going to get those. And it makes me feel good to see that we had $2,981,000 in receivable in AOBs that came in last year. That's more than I actually anticipated.
I noticed, Madam Chair, thank you for the comment about it. I wanted to mention, when you mentioned 35%, I think a few months ago you said we were at 41% reserves, but on your chart, one of the charts that I read this morning, earlier, it said 35.
Correct.
What happened to the 6% between 35 and 41? Where is that?
There's about 230, okay, in the CDs, which is roughly 1.5 million and change, $230,000 of that is set aside, and it's a requirement that we set aside for equipment and fleet replacement fund. That money, because it's restricted and cannot be used for whatever, we don't really count that towards reserves. Now, it's in investment in hopes that it'll earn us some money, But according to the auditors, it should not be counted as reserves because it does serve a purpose.
So getting back to the chair, what you just said, if we needed, I'm just gonna bring something up. 5 new pieces of equipment, a bulldozer, 2 pickups, and a snowplow. And it was around 200,000. Yeah, just, let's pick some figures out of the air.
You haven't bought equipment lately.
Yeah, okay. Let's say we need 1 snowplow, and it's $200,000, or a street sweeper, which we talked about before. We could spend that money according to the laws of the state of Arkansas. That money is put aside, it's in the bank, right? 41% of our.
It is in with the CD investments, yes, sir.
The 35% is not a state law, that's a regulation of the Suburban Improvement District.
But I think it is rooted in state law.
State law, I don't know unless they've changed it.
But what I'm saying
I
was,
think the
I have
origin of
not
that
read
was-
the law lately.
Suzanne, I'm not disagreeing with you, but we do have extra money in that 6% overage that we can use during the year, according to what you just said. It's put aside in reserves, it's in CDs, but if we need it, we could use it. Would we not?
I actually talked to the accountant about that, and what she told me was that 41% figure that we started out with included all of the reserve funds. You know, the fire department has a reserve fund, and the equipment replacement is reserve. The amount of actual CDs that are not reserve funds is 35%. The other 6% are the reserve funds. Yes, you could
That's correct.
use them anytime you needed to, but you need to keep them as a cushion, as a savings account for when you do need them. So, but I hope this lays to rest the fact that we're making money hand over fist.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask some questions here. This is the cash flow. That says 2021. It says that we had a total cash income of $4,144,000.
That's how much
Okay.
was in the bank. That's all of the money market account and all of the other.
Okay,
But that's the
what's in
money
bank.
market account. And you also we'll go on to that one in just a minute, Larry, and that one should also make us feel better also about, the district is in very stable financial condition. Okay, any other questions about 2021? Let's go on to 2022 because perhaps that would help.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions about, or comments about 2021?
I do have a question for Danny. When Dan Schrader came in a couple months ago, talked about the projects that needed to be done at the plant, and we still don't have an estimate of what that's going to cost, do we? What's it called? I forget.
Chlorine.
The chlorine
Yeah,
thing.
chlorination.
Dechlorinator.
Not an exact estimate.
Do we have a ballpark at all? 100,000?
130,000, I think, was the ballpark that, whenever Jeff Denhart was here with ESI Engineering,
Yeah.
he actually had, you may have noticed he had these papers that were rolled up, you know, that was the schematic
Okay.
for the plans for that system, and he rolled it out and explained to me how it all works and so forth. So he's on top of that. He doesn't have final numbers yet, but he's.
So let's forget about the snowplow for 200. If we need 130 for that project at the sewer plant, could we use it from the money that's above the 35%? We could. A shake yes and a shake no.
We had $100,000 in water well improvements that had to be done. You've got to take care of that kind of stuff.
I know, I've been
And
for that
so,
for 6
You know,
years.
it comes out of the money market account, just
Sure
like
it does.
it comes out of our bank account.
That's reasonable.
But we need to work assiduously to try to keep those reserves in at least 35%. And I wouldn't mind seeing them higher than that.
And that 6%, the reason I shook my head no, Ken, that 6% above the 35,
Yeah.
there are chunks of that are specific.
Yeah,
Fire department,
right,
that's all it can be used for. Can't be used for dechlorinization.
right.
Equipment replacements, that's all it can be used for. So I don't think we had, I shook my head because I don't think we have the luxury, as much as we would like it, to use it to,
That's why I brought up the 625,000 we just sold a property for and will come in soon, I hope. And then somebody mentioned the rec center. I don't want to go over 350 for that rec center. I do not. And if it comes in over that, I'm probably going to vote no. Because we can build a building for 2,000 square feet. They're built all over the island here, homes, for less than 350. And I don't want to get into that discussion this morning, but when we start looking at the plans, we either have to reduce them or we have to get a bidder that will do it. I don't want to go 500,000-600,000 for a 2,000
That
square
won't happen.
building.
That's not
Yeah.
good. Well,
That won't
no
happen.
one's thinking that.
I think we need to let the bids come in first and see what we get.
Yeah.
Then we'll know which direction to go. All right, let's go ahead and look at, well, first of all, let's approve last month's financials that we looked at last month that I forgot to ask for a motion for. So do I hear a motion to approve the May financials as were presented at the June 27th regular meeting?
So moved.
second,
Okay, Commissioner Surratt has made a motion to approve the May financials. Commissioner Dyer has seconded.
Question before we vote. That's for May and not June, right?
That's for May,
Okay.
yes.
I have a question about June, so I'll vote for
Okay,
that.
we have a motion on the floor to approve those May financials. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the May financials have been approved and can now be posted on the website.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's,
So I have one on, I don't know, Cheryl, what page it's on, but at the top left says assessments receivable current.
okay, let's go through these systematically, please. All right, let's go through these one at a time.
Okay.
All right.
Is it possible
Mr.
to get the
Presley?
print any larger on there, Cheryl? Not unless we...
Cheryl, can you use that down at the lower right-hand corner? Is that little slide that will make those
Yeah.
a little bit bigger? Yeah, that, if you can make it as big as possible so that
Good.
people in the audience can see. We have copies, but
Great.
that might help you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Mr. Presley?
Can you scroll down just?
If you'll notice on this report, we have not only dollar figures, but we have percentages on the side. And is
Yes.
that percentage of,
That is the
total?
percentage of what was budgeted,
okay, percentage of budget?
correct. So, okay, these are expenditures. Roads is under right now, and I went back and looked at some of their expenditures, and each commissioner, you have this packet that's, I think, 16 pages, and you can look at it in great detail. This works well for insomnia.
Yeah.
If you would like to look through this, I don't really know why roads is under, primarily because of some salary savings. I mean, we do have 2 open positions there,
Yeah.
and we have had off and on throughout the year some vacancies. That's probably why we're showing that that's under. Water, wastewater is at 61%.
And I'm assuming that includes the
Well,
water well repair, so
Yes,
that
ma'am.
would probably account for that.
So 61%, when you consider well 1, that looks pretty good, actually. That was right at $94,000. Administration, we're pretty well on. General fund, fire. Fire is up a little bit because, as we discussed in the last meeting when I met with the chief, and I meet with chief, once a week, and a lot of our discussions are surrounding operations and personnel and equipment and readiness and all those things that we talked about last week. And, as I mentioned, I said, Chief, if it's broken, you gotta fix it. You gotta have good fire trucks, you gotta have reliable equipment, you gotta have tires and brakes and helmets, and if you need something, we've gotta make it happen because we have to be able to be prepared and respond and do your thing. So he's done a great job in increasing our state of readiness. I don't really see any other anomalies here. Marina, you can see, is up a little bit at 57%. And that's because it's of the season. I mean, most of his expenditures come in February, March as the season starts and the weather warms up, and, you know, he buys a lot of supplies and things down
Have we
there.
poured that sidewalk yet?
No, ma'am, we have not.
Okay, so that's not in here.
The water, it's roughly $9,000.
Yeah, but out of 56,000, $9,000 would have been a chunk.
True. It has been approved. We were waiting on the water level to go down, but surely the water is low enough now.
Oh, yeah.
So it can be poured. Ozark Construction is doing that job for us. So last I heard, Colin was just waiting on them to get to it. So overall, you can see on the far right-hand column, we're at 45%. So that's pretty good.
It's darn good.
45% of budget.
Yeah, correct.
For
45%
50% of the year.
Yeah.
of budget for 50% of the year. So we're just under.
Okay.
Next page is the revenue, and as you'll note there, this is non-AOB revenue. I'm not including, the AOB is a separate chart. We looked at it independently. And on here, I noted the total budget was $2,056,000. And you'll notice again on the far right-hand column, we're at 1.2 million. So we're tracking a little above. Now we're in that season, March, April, May, June, when golf and the rec center and everything's kind of ramped up. And, you know, revenue is on the increase through the summer months, and then it wanes throughout the fall. But these numbers are pretty good. We're doing pretty well. Let's go to the next page where we can look at it in terms of percentage. And this is percentage of what was budgeted, once again, or what was projected for revenue. The 177%, that's, roads typically doesn't have much revenue, you know, $5,000 to $10,000. So if we get a little windfall of $3,000 or $4,000,
It looks big.
it shifts it quite a bit. So water, wastewater at 49%. I mean, we're right on for half the year. Administration, fire. 18-hole operations. I mean, that's your pro shop, that's cart rentals, that's green fees, that's, you know, annual fees, daily fees, all of that. So to be at 64%, our 18-hole course is performing really well this year. Rec center is up. Restaurant, marina, clubhouse. All I can say is the clubhouse has been busy, but clubhouse only has, I think it's, you know, $6,000 or $8,000 for the year is what we expect for revenue. So anyway, we're right at 59% overall and halfway through the year.
Halfway through.
I'm sure I'd like to compliment the clubhouse staff and I call it the Pro Shop Diner, but the restaurant. It seems that they're doing a great job. It says 16 only in the seating room there, in the dining room, but they'll get out a meal for you in about 8 or 9 minutes, breakfast and lunch. And then their meals on Friday and Saturday night are excellent for $15, and they work just really, really hard.
They do a good
And
job.
I just want to compliment them. And all of our employees do a great job. But I just wanted to highlight the ladies there and Lauren and the starters. They make you feel welcome.
Yeah.
They explain what the fees are if you want to play golf there. And they do the leagues really well. Phyllis, I know you and Bob and I play once in a
Here's
while.
something at the
And
bottom.
I'm really glad of customer service up there.
Yeah.
Is there talk about
There it is.
reopening more of the dining room? Has there been any discussion about getting more tables back in there?
No, ma'am. I was not aware of that.
If that was a COVID thing,
Yeah.
was
Oh,
why
okay.
they, and
Okay.
There are
it
less
used
tables
to-
than used to
It
be.
used to see, what would you say, 50,
20,
40?
40
just,
maybe.
yeah.
Spread people out a bit.
Yeah, they were, for COVID, they
Okay.
reduced the size, but there used to be tables down the middle.
I was-
I don't know whether Lauren thinks it's important to, might chat with
Sure. I will. I was not aware of that.
Well, COVID hadn't gone away.
Yeah.
her. Well, no, it hasn't, but the precautions have,
Yeah. Yeah.
like it or not.
So this next slide kind of gives you a good picture, the 10,000 foot view of where we're at. But revenue at 59% and expenditures at 45%. So on the revenue side, that 2.056 million is what we projected for revenue
For the whole year.
for the year. And we are at 1.2, so, we're right at approaching 60%. And then on the expenditure side, our total expenditures for everything that we do, we projected 4.2 million and we're at 1.9. So I like to see revenue up and expenditures down. And so I like this chart.
Yes. Yes.
On the next page, you can see that revenue is still lagging behind expenditures. As we get to October,
Yeah.
you're going to see that revenue sharply increase. I've looked at it historically over 5 years. You're going to see September and October when the AOBs come in and things tend to even out. And then we'll be better prepared to go into budget season and see where we're at.
Yep.
So next page, now this is specific to revenue. It hasn't changed a lot. You'll see the yellow line at the bottom. That's okay. That thing's a little tricky, I know. The yellow line at the bottom, it's continuing to creep up a little bit. That is this year's collections for AOBs, and we're right at $1 million. Just a little
A
over.
little less than half of what we billed.
Mhm. And then, as I said, you'll see that increase sharply in September and October. That AOB past due, which is the blue line, that's AOBs that go back a year, 2 years, 3 years. And I think it's like 2 years, and then at some point, as we've discussed, the auditors say, okay, it's time to write this off.
But the good thing about to see is we've taken in at least $150,000 past due amounts.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, we have.
you'd like it to be more, but at least it's 150,000.
The green line is what we have projected for AOB revenue, and that number, it's not on here, but it's like 2.35 million, I believe is what it is. And then the total due is down to 3.3 million, so that's a look at the AOB. And then here's as Commissioner Brown mentioned, the reserves. I'm showing the CD balance at the end of June at $1.3 million. The CDs actually have $1.5 million, but according to the auditors, and as Commissioner Dyer explained, you don't include all the restricted funds. And so the fire department restricted funds, the equipment replacement fund, and all of that is not shown in that number. And that's the difference in 35% and 41%.
So these are just non-restricted funds.
Danny, I have a
Correct.
question. You mentioned fire department 833 funds. Does the chief have to apply for that every year, or is that an amount that comes to each fire department automatically, or how does that work, 833 money?
I don't know the answer to that. There's some funds that he has to apply for and some that are just automatic.
Okay,
I will say this, the application process is just a formality because for 10, 20 years, we get that money every year and we can count on it. But there may be some paperwork involved.
okay, thanks. I have a question going back to AOB. Cheryl, it's not on that page, but I'm thinking that we had 1.4 AOB assessment money not paid. And we would call that lots that are either in foreclosure or about to be foreclosure. And our accounting system, and I don't want to get into that today, but they give us a total of about 300,000 to offset that 1.4. Anybody know what I'm talking about?
I do what you're talking
There's an
about.
offsetting.
There's an allowance for uncollected
Yeah.
AOBs, yes.
So what are we doing, if anything, or what can we do anything about the 1.1 difference, 1.4 versus 300,000 that the auditors allow us to count for that? And will we ever get any of that money, or does it go back to the Commissioner of Lands and then go through the sale process and all that stuff?
Well, you can look at that. We got $150,000 this year already. It's not a whole bunch.
Yeah, but it's 1.4 that's still outstanding, right?
1.3 still
Three,
outstanding.
1.3.
So,
So it's 1.3
Who knows?
versus 150,000 that we got.
when I talked to Regina about it, she said that when they go through the foreclosure process, that they actually reduce that amount on the books. And so that's one of the things, we have not, because of COVID and because our attorney got killed in a car wreck and all that kind of thing, they did not do foreclosures for the last couple of years. So this number is much larger than it would normally be. And as they do those foreclosures and roll those off, this number, it's not money you got, you wish you had gotten it, you'd love for everybody to pay, but that will bring that number down somewhat. But it's because they're in foreclosure, that's why.
It's still a big number though, right?
It is a big number.
And Ken, you asked what can be done about it. A couple of weeks ago, the district manager sent us all an email outlining some work that he and our board attorney are doing
Right.
with Carroll County, in conjunction to Carroll County, to expedite moving some of these properties that would normally have been foreclosed upon and turned over to the Commissioner of Land, allowing that to be put into a pool of properties that the board and HICID
Right.
could market and try and
Yes,
start generating. So I commend you,
yes.
Danny, on that work and
And I responded too, Danny, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And also paying county taxes on land that we have. That's part of the whole.
Yeah, that's why we're asking for a declaratory judgment.
That's really key to all of it.
Yes.
You have to interrupt this cycle that we're in.
Yeah,
And that's going to significantly slow down the foreclosures.
thank you, Bob, I appreciate it, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, Cheryl, if you could look at the next one, money market balance. This money market account, as I mentioned, is kind of I call it the mothership account. It's where all monies go. All revenue that comes in, everything goes to the money market account. There's a separate payroll account, but that is done through an automated process that, so many days prior to payroll, money comes out of this account, flows over to the payroll account, and then we do the payroll out of that. And then essentially that payroll account gets basically zeroed out each time after payroll. But I always find it interesting how the ebb and flow of this, and you can see March, April, and May, you can see the golf and the marina.
The golf and marina annual
and
passes.
the annual passes, the recreation center opens up, and then you can see the uptick in September and October. So we're currently at 2.7 million. So it looks like it should.
I have a question on, Madam Chair, about rollover of CDs, and a former commissioner brought up, could we go to either banks outside of Carroll County, because they were like 0.8% or 0.2% or something, 0.2. And, you know, we have JP Morgan, we have Chase Bank, we have Bank of America that are billions and billions and billions of dollars big. And I think would we ever consider, the five of us, looking at another bank other than the one in town here and try to get you're a banker, that's right, and you work for a big bank, I'm sure, in Kansas City. Do we have to go with the local bank that's so tiny?
We advertise that those,
We had a movement with
The
the
big
last
banks
one.
got
And
them.
actually-
so if they wanted to, I mean, all they'd have to do is put in a
We
bid.
tripled our interest.
We tripled our interest rate. The last one that went out, Equity bid on it and tripled what CS was paying.
I was not
Now,
sure.
triple, you know, what, 1%, 1.1%.
Went from .002 to
Yeah.
.006.
To answer your question,
Equity Bank's out of Harrison, it's not out of New York City or
yeah,
Chicago.
to answer your question briefly, our piddly amount of money is not worth it to a big bank to compete on. We need the local banks to compete because this is a drop in the bucket for JP Morgan or
Okay.
Citibank. I
Okay.
mean, that's the biggest
All
thing.
right, thank you.
That's
I just wondered.
If they have an
Reality of-
appetite for it, though, they
Well, sure,
Could sure,
you know,
Okay.
I think what had happened, and this is just my sense, is that it was almost routine,
yeah,
and it stayed at CS Bank, which I love the people at CS Bank. They're wonderful, and they help us with a lot of things here. But for one reason or another, we have 6 different CDs. They were all at CS, and they stayed at CS, and they just rolled over and rolled over. And I think maybe when it was put out for bids, it was put out in some venue that was kind of obscure, like maybe the Carroll County paper or something, I don't know. But word didn't get out, and so the bidding never really took place. And so we literally got on the phone and called other banks and asked for someone in a management position, and Cheryl helped with that, thank you, and tried to generate some real interest.
Yeah.
And as you said, it went from .00 this to the, but we did triple our interest rate.
And as I recall the conversation too, it got attention at CS Bank.
it was a wake-up call.
Yes, yes it
They
did.
went, oh my goodness, we didn't get the bid.
Yeah.
And that was my point,
Well,
was to
and
try to push the issue a little bit. And
There's no reason why we can't have a little list of local banks, CS and Equity and I don't know who else is
There's
around.
Anstat.
Advest, I don't know,
Anstat.
We go out to
Arvest,
4,
rather.
1889.
Arvest, I think we went out to
ultimately went out to 3.
Yeah.
That's what, they changed their name, that First National Bank of Northwest Arkansas.
Oh,
Aren't
really?
they changing their name to 1889?
I hadn't heard of that.
all right, I've never heard that, anyway.
Thank you.
Anyway, you
I don't
know,
understand
there's
why
no
they
reason why we
want
can't
state
expand our
certification
list.
Instead of federal.
True, yeah.
And if demand goes up, loans, and they need to finance them.
Exactly.
Cheryl, can you go back one slide to that money market account balance? Because the one thing that I got from looking at this, and I was glad to see this from a historical perspective, is we've actually increased that money market account, which means we're not spending as much money as we've spent in the past. And I think that's understandable. We had COVID, everybody was scared to death on what was going to, so we got department managers cut back spending as much as possible. We had a change in district managers. We didn't do the road paving project last year. So we actually probably have, based on this chart, more money in that account than we need to. So at some point in time, and I'm just throwing this out for consideration, not to make any kind of decision, but at some point in time, we may want to consider moving a couple $100,000 into a CD, because if that's all it would take to raise it to 37 or 38%, we also need to look again at these one-time expenses that we've shoved back You know, Ken, you were, the other day said you were really concerned about the backside of Fort Apache that desperately needed a paint job.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we need to take care of some of these things. We've been so frugal for so long that we've actually have the money to take care of some of these things. And we need to keep all of our assets in good condition so that it reflects positively on the community. So that was the one takeaway that I got from there is that we could actually raise that reserves a little bit, feel like we had a little bit more of a cushion.
Sure.
And get some things done.
That's a good point, Madam Chair, because I asked Annie a while ago, just informally, if we could take a look at all of the buildings in the Holiday Island, so we don't have another rec center. That went on and on and on and on, and nobody checked it. Not that the commissioner should, or maybe the district manager, but the person who's in charge of that building. We should be looking at roofing, we should be looking at air conditioners, which we have tons of. We should be looking at a lot of things. The restrooms we talked about at the pro shop, at the clubhouse, things like that. If we did a little bit each year, we wouldn't be in the condition that you mentioned.
Exactly. And I think that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Kind of need to look at all of that. All right, thank you, Cheryl. Go ahead.
So monthly cash flow, this is, well, I failed to put that on here, but this is 2022, January through June. And this just gives you an idea of where our money's at month to month. That total cash in all accounts is 4.3 million. So that would be our investments plus the money market account plus all other restricted accounts, water deposits, equipment replacement fund, and so forth. We just talked about the money market account. Restricted cash, that doesn't change much because we don't dip into it much unless we have to. And that is, the bulk of that 1.6 million in restricted cash is the debt service fund for the wastewater treatment plant.
Yes. It's 1.4 million, actually.
Yes, and it's somewhat a pass-through. You know, we bring that money in on the water bills, and then there's debt service rolled up into the AOB. And at some point back when that debt service first started, when they did those bonds, there was a lag time as we were bringing in money. And I don't know if it was 2 or 3 or 4 months or how long it was. And that account built up nearly $1 million, and then they started making, payments to service the debt. So that bulk of money is still there. And, I think we asked the auditors about that, and I don't know if we need to lower that amount and, apply $1 million towards those bonds, or just...
Do you know how much the balance on the bonds is?
I do not, but I know that if we continue to pay it on the schedule that we're on, it's either 2028 or 2029 when it pays off, I believe is correct.
Dan, do you remember how much the balance is on
Or
that?
maybe it's...
Somewhere I was thinking it was like
2030.
3.5 million, but I could be so wrong.
I think you're about right.
I think that's the number I heard.
I think that was 3.5. Okay.
The other available cash that you see on that yellow line, which is, $0 or $100 or whatever that is, essentially what that is petty cash. We have a petty cash fund at the rec center, we have petty cash, and there's a reconciliation process, for that. And it's, $500 here and there, so that's what that is. And then the net change in cash, we're in June, our net change was down $110,000. And as I believe it was Madam Chair mentioned, that will probably stay a negative until we get to September, October, and then we see that spike in revenue, and it'll all come out in the wash, as they say. So there's that, and I'm happy to answer any questions if I can. There's also an additional handout that you have. It's entitled June 2022 Cash Flow. This has a little more detail there, and you can see month to month. All of the restricted funds are in red. You can see the petty cash and all listed here as well.
The other thing that you would want to get out of this report is at that very bottom right-hand number, you could interpret that net change in cash from the beginning of the year to now, $230,000. That's all we've taken in above and beyond our expenses. So, of course, that number is going to ebb and flow, as you can see throughout this whole thing, but hopefully this will give us a little more realistic view of where we stand without considering all of the free AOB receivables. Dan?
Yeah, just as a point of clarification maybe, those numbers aren't actually cash flow numbers, those are account balance numbers, month over month.
You're right.
So
We'll change the
that's-
title.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't think we want to confuse that with actual cash flow.
okay,
Oh,
good point.
Danny, I have a question, and Cheryl, I don't know what page it's on, but as I was saying earlier, it's the top left says assessments receivable current, one of the nice pages you gave us. And Madam Chair, you asked about May, and I voted for May financials, but this has June also on it, and then year to date. It's actually the second one down, assessments receivable non-current, okay?
What page?
And
Where are you?
okay, this is, I wish it had a page number on it, but it's the top three are assessments receivable, current, assessments.
It's the last page.
That's what we haven't
of
got
Yeah,
this.
the last
yet.
page.
One we haven't got to yet, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, we're still going, okay. Okay. You want to wait till we get there or what? Oh.
Well, the second one is just strictly our CD balances that we have right now.
That's-
So that one shouldn't take long to consider.
Well, here's a question, and maybe some of you accountants can answer it. In red, it says prior month end balance for, this is assessments receivable, non-current. It says prior month balance, and then payments, it says $114,574. And then it says adjustments, $2260.26, So my question is, on the payments, are they cash payments, somebody writes a check to that, or are they write-offs for foreclosures and that type of thing, late?
Those
I
are
think-
payments.
Those
Yeah.
are
Payment,
yeah.
yes.
Write-offs, I think, would be adjustments.
Okay.
Is that the way you understand it?
That's correct, yes.
That if somebody didn't pay it, then you say they owe us $400 and we're gonna just write that off, and that's included in that.
It goes to adjustments when we write it off.
Okay.
And I anticipate, and that's why you see that, that adjustment is only in the month of January.
Okay.
So that's probably a carryover from the previous year, what the auditors said we need to, do that adjustment.
Okay.
And so it carries over, and you
Right.
don't see it in, well, now there's a 706 adjustment, but that could be something as simple as someone paid and we refunded it, or something like a
Okay.
single property, a single transaction.
Yeah. Well, how long does it take for a penalty, or let's say I don't pay my taxes, my assessment on October 15th, and I still
Yeah.
haven't paid it today. It's July 25th today. How long does Regina and the office staff wait until something happens with that?
I wish I could recall that email I sent
Yeah.
a week or 2 weeks ago. There is a process for that. Usually 30 to 60 days, she'll send you a letter. If there's no response, no payment, then another 30 to 60 days, she sends another letter.
Okay.
And then she involves the attorneys. I believe the attorney's office sends a letter. And then it takes several months before we actually initiate a foreclosure.
Okay. And we're a little behind because of COVID and Turning passed
Yes,
away.
sir. But we're catching up.
Yeah,
Right.
she
We are
told,
catching up.
she told me the other day that there were two sets of properties that were, two groups of properties that were going to foreclosure in the near future.
The reason I bring this up, and not to be nitpicky, but I would like to see, your car warranty is up, please call. I would like to see some of these properties sell and somebody build a home on them.
Me
We
too.
have lots of properties.
Me too.
Right?
That
That's
would
why
be-
I'm excited if we can get this declaratory judgment where
That
we
would be
can
great.
get those properties back
Right,
and then contract with realtors to market those properties.
right.
And then we can stop this churn of stuff through the foreclosure process. And honestly, from the county's point of view, I would think they would want it stopped because it's trouble
Can
for
you go
them
back to
too.
the, you know, the chart that has the
Yeah.
AOBs with all the lines? Keep that page handy, but, okay, keep going. Keep going, please.
There
Right
it is.
That's it. This spreadsheet that you're looking at here regarding AOBs, what's current, non-current, what we've received up year to date, and what's still outstanding, what's past due, all that. That's all represented here on this chart.
These numbers are where that graph comes from.
Okay.
Yes. So, well, to me, my simple mind, it's easier for me to see it in this format than it is to study through these numbers.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to provide you with both each month, and I'll continue to do that. So happy to answer any questions about where we're at on our collections. It just, we don't really have any control over this. We send the notices, and we hope that we have responsible property owners who will pay their AOBs.
And I appreciate yours and Jennifer's work in translating these accounting reports into something that's really visual and easier to see. I think it makes it easier for everyone.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions about the June financials, anyone? Okay, may I hear a motion to accept the financials?
I would make a motion that the board accept the June 2022 financials.
Okay.
Second.
Commissioner Dyer has made a motion to accept the financials. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Brown has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. All right, public comments. Do we have other public comments? Mayor Key. Oh, I think you're gonna have to be second, Mayor.
Somebody have you
She didn't even raise her hand.
No, she didn't raise her hand.
She jumped fast and you did.
sprung to her feet.
Okay, Linda Graves, 29 Table Rock Drive. Yeah, well, Danny just left, I was gonna ask him a question. But, yeah, I wanted to mention about have we been adding new improved properties to the assessment rolls as properties get built on empty lots?
What
Because
I-
they would change from an empty lot assessment to an improved R1.
As soon as they do a water meter,
Do water meter.
that
I
triggers.
asked that question too. As
Okay.
soon as a water meter is put on there, it
So they will
becomes-
go on the next time we do assessments, right?
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that was happening. And also, you talked about the declaratory judgment. And is that the end of the foreclosure process where the judge says, okay, all these properties are foreclosed and they're now HICIDs?
No.
So what are you talking about?
There was a judgment with Carriage Creek.
The Supreme Court where we don't have to pay
Yes.
property tax?
And
on
so
the
our
properties that's been
attorney,
foreclosed?
yes,
Uh-huh.
our attorney talked with the county's attorney several times just to come to a gentleman's agreement that this court case is exactly identical to our situation. And the county, you're going to find this strange, Dan, the county sort of dragged their feet on that sort of
Like
stuff.
for how many, like for what? 10
30
years?
Yeah.
Since we've been pursuing it? Yeah.
So I asked Danny to ask the attorney what would be the next step. And because I said, they're just blowing us off. And he said has filed for a declaratory judgment that the county should accept that Supreme Court case as it is. And if that, when that happens, then we'll be in the situation we can take these properties back and turn around and sell them, without having to worry about the property tax implication of it. That's what that is.
Yeah, in other words, they won't be sending us property tax bills.
Right.
Now, every time we do a foreclosure process, however, there is a judgment by the judge that he puts those properties in our hands.
Right.
And we could still turn them around right then. We can market them right then, as soon as they're foreclosed on. Anything that's in our name can be marketed by us. And one of the things we haven't been doing, for a few years, when Lawrence was here, he was offering them up for like $1,500 a property, which would pay a two years of assessments or something, or current and past assessment maybe. But there's nothing in the law that prevents us to charge whatever market value they're worth.
Yeah. And that's a good point. We probably need to look into that and see about.
And empty lots after this last assessment are like a minimum of 10,000, 12,000. So, I would encourage you, because people are snapping properties up from the state land commissioner and anything they can get their hand on that's cheap, because they know they'll turn it for a profit. So I would encourage the board to make the profit on it. And put it in your pockets. That's all I have to say.
And did you hear Linda's first part about that?
Well, I got the gist of it, yes, sir.
And the thing of it is, I think we're going to have to, I think with most realtors, you're going to have to work a different fee structure from them, because marketing
You don't have to go through a realtor.
well, that's
There's
true.
no reason for that.
Yeah.
I don't know that we are authorized or licensed to market the properties ourselves.
There's nothing in the law to prevent it. You talk to Tim about it, I'm sure he'd tell you that. Ask him to show you the passage of the law which says you can't do it.
Yeah. But you're right. We could be looking at selling all that. All right. Mayor Keys. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
my name is Dave Gilburn, and I'm at 31 Oak Point, and my question was on the rec center. Now, evidently what I heard is that it's been pretty much a tear down. And on that, was there an engineer that came out and did he have findings and recommendations that I could look at or someone could look at? And there's a lot of different ways of doing things, and maybe even a second opinion would be better, but at 2,000 square feet, say 220 square foot, we're over 400,000. And it's a good building, it's got material in it, material's way expensive now. Take that down, tear it out and start over, there may be another way.
We had two different engineers that looked, was it three?
Three.
That looked at it.
Well, all three.
And all three of them said, it's a mess. We were like you, it was like, do we really need to do this? Can't we just fix it? And they all said, no, there's just so many problems. And when you start dealing with one thing, then it just goes to another problem, so. But thank you for your interest.
Sure.
Yes, we appreciate it. Tell us your name again.
I'm Dave Dobrin, D-O-B-R-N.
All
He's
right.
the building inspector for the city
Oh, okay, well then,
and immensely qualified to ask. that question.
fabulous, wonderful.
Welcome.
Welcome, and we're glad you're here, yes.
I had a comment, sir, thank you for coming. I had an informal amount, it wasn't a bid, but I asked him to see Mr. Presley about it for $150 to fix the building with the bad floors and whatever else was wrong with it. And he did not propose, form a proposal for that. But then we've had the three engineers' reports, and we had a company, Broadway Construction in Springdale. They came in with a $700,000 bid of two big buildings. But then
That was 3 times the size.
Danny went on to look at other options, and
make it clear.
Currently,
Apples to apples.
what's the situation, thank you for bringing that up. What's the situation with Butch Berry right now, if I can ask?
Other than me exchanging emails with him, asking him for the plans and asking him for a timeline, that's about it. And so what I had done is ask him what we owe him currently, and I'm exploring some options to see if we might have, I know Butch is busy. I'm certainly not knocking him. He's done a good job in what he's done up till now. But it appears that he's not going to be able to get the plans to us in a timely manner because he's looking at September to October. And if we want to have this opened for next season, I think that's going to put us too late. So I'm trying to push forward and go ahead and explore some other options, not just on that side, but the site prep, the demolition and the site prep to get ready for another building. And I have a meeting at 12 o'clock with the contractor to take a look at that.
Okay.
I spoke with Butch Berry. I called him and asked him what was going on. He told me that you pulled the plug, that you asked for the bill and told him that it was over. Is that right?
That's close, yes.
And he also told me that he told everybody concerned that it would be September before he could get all the engineers, structural engineers, and everybody else on board to come up with a plan to approve them. I believe he said that in front of you,
We saw the email. that
We all
said
saw the
that.
emails. Often he wouldn't even respond to email.
Who talked to him to pull the plug? Why do we start over again?
We're not really
We had the plans, he's drawn the plans up, and we revised them and all this kind of stuff, and you pulled the plug on it?
He sent us the plans. We have the plans.
Yeah.
He sent us the floor plan, but not the elevations, and then he said it was going to
Then
be
he
some
has to
time.
have the structural engineer approve the plans. We don't want to build a building that's not approved structurally.
We're not going to.
No, we're not going to.
Did you approve to pull the plug?
I knew that he was not responsive, and when
Wait a
Mr.
minute,
when
you
Mr.
three knew that you're going to pull the plug?
we read our
Did you
emails,
tell us that?
we read our emails.
I read my emails too, Suzanne.
Yes.
I emailed him and said that this is what my email said.
Your email said to submit a bill.
That's true, but that's not all the email said. The email said that for a 2,000 square foot building, that September, he wasn't going to talk to a structural engineer to look at this until September. Well, that tells me probably October, November.
So we're going to
before we
start
get a
over
set of
again
plans.
and pay somebody else to come in here to pick it up and all that kind of stuff.
If I can get it done sooner than September, I would. Now, it's my understanding, Commissioner, that this board gave me the authorization to pursue this project and handle it. And if I misunderstood, then please say so. But I told him that was longer than the time frame that we expected. And would he please tell us what we owe him up to this point for the work that he's done? And he sent me an invoice. It was very reasonable for what he's done up to this point. And I believe we paid that invoice last week.
Mhm.
Now, if this board votes and tells me to call Butch and tell him, hey, we're going to wait another 3 months for some plans,
September's not 3 months away.
I believe it's September before
He
the
told me
structural
he'd have it by
engineer
September,
would look at the plans.
but you pulled the plug.
Well, I asked him for an invoice of what we owe him up to this point. If this board wants to continue down that path, solely up to you.
I don't think we should employ somebody else to pick it up. I think we should see it through to September.
I think, Commissioner, I think my biggest concern with continuing the way we were with Mr. Berry, there would be weeks where he wouldn't respond to our district manager's emails.
You know, I can't argue that point.
And, you know, in business, that's a no-gamer, you know? You can't, and he never, ever, in any of the emails that we all saw, he never gave us a date when the plans would be complete and ready to go to bid with contractors. All he said would be, it would be sometime in September before he could
September.
have them reviewed by
That's-
an engineer.
That's what he told me, September.
Yeah, that's what his email said. Said, I reached out to my MEP and structural engineer, and they are so busy, it will be around the first part of September before they think they will be able to have it completed.
That's right.
By the way, did I send the architectural fee agreement? And then there was some more communication.
Well, I'm happy to do whatever is the pleasure of this board. I'll go make it happen. My concern is, it really comes down to one thing, and that is providing good service to our residents. And I feel like if we don't have something going by next season, I feel like we've dropped the ball. I want our residents to have a nice new recreation center ready to be open by May. And the further we go, I'm afraid that we're not going to reach that deadline. And that was the only motivation for me doing what I've done up to this point. Is
I think we ought to continue and put that stipulation on there, that it's to be completed by May.
If it's not, then what do you do?
Then if
I mean, you can stipulate all you
please
want.
answer it that you can get that done.
But that's the conversation that I would have to have with the contractors who are going to build it, and I can't get to them until I have a plan
Have a
set.
plan. I think Barry needs to know that.
Well, I think that if you're able to pursue other avenues with I guess you have to have the understanding that, I'm having trouble here thinking straight. Continue what you're doing, looking into other avenues, and if you want to talk to Butch Berry and tell him that if he can give it to us in time, then we're back on board. I don't know what else you do, but I don't think we can just sit here until September and wait for him to produce.
It's difficult dealing with someone who's not responsive.
Yeah.
And weeks would go by. So I think we should look and see where we're going. We want to get this thing built. That's our whole goal.
That's where I'm at.
And, yeah,
And it's not a sophisticated, what we're proposing is a relatively small, bare bones facility. And Danny, maybe, Mr. Berry, can you have us something ready to go to bid by the September 15th? If not, we really think we need to move on.
I think that's an order.
Would that work, Danny?
But if we get to September 15th and he doesn't have it ready, then we've wasted another
yeah,
6
that's
weeks, 6 or
my
7
thinking.
weeks.
is
And the
that-
sad reality is, we're only 45 days away from that date.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I think he needs to be, say, give us what you've got. We want to see it, get it done.
That's where we
Now,
are.
he has done that. He's sent me what he's done up to this point. But it's a floor plan, and now I'll have to go back and look. I think there were some sketches on there of the exterior. I mean, like I said, I just don't want to let the public down. I want us to have something ready
I
in
think
May
we
of next
need to
year.
pursue
So
it and push him to get it done. And I'll be glad to do that. I mean, you can talk to him, but I'm telling him, get it done.
Ms. Childers is the chair and Danny is the district manager. I think so you both, and we gave you that, order, if you will. We asked you to go forward and do this. I'm just wondering, this is a way out of the ballpark kind of, but the island room seems to be working very well. Al back there asked me, shouldn't we put a sidewalk? There's a dirt where you go to the pool. But other than checking people in for swimming, the pickleball, we sign up down at the pickleball courts. We have a clipboard there. I saw some people come through to putt-putt golf the other day. We really, other than the small pool, the baby pool, kids pool, we have no need for that building that sits between the two pools. Well, I guess we do if we want to shower, you know, everybody's supposed to shower, they don't. But what would be the problem of just doing business the way we've been doing it for the last 3 months? Keeping the check-in, check-out system from the island room and not having a rec center.
To that point, Commissioner, I want to mention this. As I mentioned, I have a meeting today at 12 o'clock with a contractor to demo and prep the site.
Okay.
And absent some direction to the contrary from this board, I want to proceed with that and get that site ready.
Okay.
Clean it up. It looks like a mess. I'd rather bring in loads of topsoil and plant grass and mow it than have it looking like it's looking now.
Yeah.
So if the board is okay with that, I'd like to. Now, I probably would have to send that out for bids and so forth, and I'll be sure to do that. But at least it's a starting point, and then we could turn off the power, cap the utilities, and prep the site so it's not a hazard. It looks better, and when the point comes that we decide if we're going to build something, it'll be ready to go.
Do you have any idea of cost of a demo?
I should know in about 2 hours,
Okay.
ballpark. Now, it might take, to get a formal bid, it's probably going to take me, a week or two at least. But I think I can get a ballpark idea today.
I sort of like that idea because if we wait till September 15th and we get drawings that a contractor can use, the building is leveled and it's ready to go, ready to put walls up, rather than wait till September 15th and then, demo it then. I think that's,
Yeah.
if we're going to build a new building, let's demo it and get that done now.
Yeah.
We've been sitting and
That's
talking about this thing for a long time since
Yeah,
I've
and
done.
and that's, in my estimation, that's the way we're viewed amongst our residents right now is, this thing has drug on for almost a year. And it's time to quit cutting bait and start fishing.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, we have given our district manager the authority and our backing to proceed with this project, to manage it. And in my estimation, we need to allow him to do that. I would encourage you to have a verbal conversation with Mr. Berry, though. And because if you started a new relationship with a new architect, Danny, I can't imagine that they could do it any sooner than 45 days. Maybe they can, I don't know. If you feel somebody can do it quicker, that's up to you. But I think we need to show Mr. Berry the courtesy of a verbal conversation and by Danny, not a commission member.
I agree. I don't want to get involved.
Just.
Yes, sir. I'll do that. I have a good rapport with him, and the last time I did talk to him, that I told him that time was of the essence,
Yeah.
and it's all about providing for our residents.
Yeah.
There's an expectation that we get something going, and
Well, there's another issue too of the assessment of benefit. And that structure is part of the assessment of benefit. And, if we're going to eliminate that, then we have to take a hard look at the assessment of benefit. So.
So, Mr. Selleck,
Since we're in public comments.
we are in public comments, although lately it hadn't looked like
I
it.
have an appointment with them, so I got you since I waited too long. First, actually two now, Phyllis expanded my comments. When you go into the dining room at the clubhouse, well, first of all, I'll sell it $22 in line. There's a big blackboard up there that says, we are limited to 16 seats.
Yeah.
Turn around and count.
How many's in there?
There's 24 chairs.
Okay, well, they're just
But
not
there
arranged
could
the
be-
same way they had been.
There could be 40, so.
Yeah, and it could be 40, so I do need to expand it. But if nothing else, correct it, change the black. Okay, but I came today because I want to thank you all for having the pool open until 8 o'clock. I want to let you know that the public likes the pool open at 8 o'clock. There's a group of us that come often, I mean, there'll be 6 people, 8 people. One night, as we were leaving, there was like 8 people, we were leaving at 7, but there were 8 people coming in for that last hour yet. Somebody said to me about, I heard there were some of the employees that don't appreciate it. Well, I ran businesses for a couple of years, and that's real nice. I would explain to my employees that, I understand that you want to be home in the evening, that you don't want to work late, and that's your prerogative. You go ahead and do that. I'll be busy on the phone finding new employees. We really appreciate being open till 8 o'clock. It would be nice if the walkway was finished, so we're not walking through the dirt. If you get a chance, stop at the alley room. And then also, when you're at the alley room, go out and stand on the patio and look over at the pool fence. And they took one of the other signs and turned it around backwards and wrote with a magic marker on it, pool entrance and an arrow. And then there's this gate that really blends with the rest of the fence. So yesterday, imagine the 4 people, the 2 parents and their 2 children that walked up to the sign and continued to walk all the way around the pool.
Mr. Selick, I resemble that remark. When I was told that they had installed a gate down there, I was going to go down and check out the gate. And I walked around that thing twice, and I walked right past the gate because it just blends in.
Well, that's probably why they put the sign next to it that has the arrow.
Yeah, someone had to show me where the gate was. So.
Okay, maybe we need a sign that says gate and hang it on the gate itself.
So do we have to do North Dakota signage and put a big sign? This is a gate.
You can have a big sign that says, welcome, enter here, you betcha. Anyways, we do.
Al, thank you for positive comments.
Those of us
We
that come in
appreciate
and
that.
Greatly appreciate it being open.
Thank
It's nice, you maybe have a light dinner and then go over, once it's cooled off, you go swimming in the evening.
Thank you.
It
And
is
sir,
nice.
I did have that conversation with some employees, and it all worked out, and they are happy to serve until 8 p.m.
They're giddy.
We appreciate the board considering us as being your customers.
Yes, sir.
Well, and the other thing we have to consider too is there are people who live in Holiday Island who work for a living and can only go over in the evening. So, yeah, I'm glad it's open till 8 too.
Not-
Madam Chair, one last.
Mayor Keys.
Mayor, go ahead. Your minutes are flowing. Your clock is ticking.
On my 3 minutes.
Your 3 minutes.
Dan Keys, 120 Holiday Island Drive. I wanted to commend the board on focusing on cash flow in the financial review. That is the only thing that matters to Holiday Island. All of the things that end up in the P&L, because of the way accounting is done, are necessary because that's the law. But there are things that happen with receivables that inflated one year and deflated the next year. There's things that affect, those things affect the balance sheet, not the cash flow. And nobody even looks at, the property owners don't look at the balance sheet. So, by focusing on cash flow, you take the depreciation, out of it, which doesn't affect cash flow. You take the uncollectible receivables. That's up to the accountants and the auditors to determine how aged the receivables should be before you write them off and stuff like that. So, I agree, focus on cash flow. On the rec center, I don't agree with you, Ken, sorry, but I don't agree with you.
That's all right.
They can run the pools from the island room. It's okay now because we're getting by now.
We're getting
Because
by.
we just have one pool open and nothing bad has happened. But, when your supervision is that far away from what's actually going on, you're really depending on the parents and and the public to make sure that the pools are being used safely and appropriately, and we need the supervision closer to the actual pools.
I said
And last,
it was a wild idea.
and last, if I'd have known you were ready to start demoing the rec center, I'd have kept my 3-year-old grandson here another week.
Give him a bigger hammer.
Madam Chair, I wanted to say one last thing, and that's to help Danny. When Mr. Selleck talked about the sidewalk over there going through the sand and mud, I talked to Arizona Construction. They did the sidewalks and a lot of work on the pickleball court, and they said they would go by and look at it and see Mr. Presley about possibly a bid and doing it. And we've got to get companies, number one, that are local. We can't get anybody from Fayetteville to come, as our new building inspector would probably agree. And number two, the Fort Apache, I asked another company, siding company and painter, to come by and see Mr. Presley about a possible bid on that. So he can't be everywhere. He can't be everywhere, but we can help without interfering. We can help get some of these things done.
I was just going to add, Commissioner, that I spoke to Tyler about that, and he's waiting on 2 different bids for that job. And
Good.
I know it's been 3 weeks or so now, but Tyler assures me he's going to get those bids, and we'll
He's
see.
busy. He's real busy.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
He's doing a great job, by the
Yeah.
way. Tyler is.
Yes,
He is.
Doing a nice job.
Man, you could not,
He
you
is.
could not hope for a more dedicated.
Commissioner comments, and I would like to start with commissioner comments. I have remarks. At the June 27th meeting, Commissioner Stamps, in his board comments, stated that what this board is doing is destroying the community of Holiday Island, and assessments are out of hand. He went on to assert that Holiday Island has $1.5 million profit in 2021. I found these allegations highly offensive, and I suspect the remainder of the board does as well. Most of this board has worked positively with district staff to understand our financial position, assure the financial stability of the district, and maintain a level of service that positively impacts property values. Mr. Stamp's statements are based on a lie. The district
No, it's
did
a lie. It's
did
not a lie.
make $1.5 million in profit in 2021. In his year on the board, Mr. Stamps has maligned the district staff by declaring at an open meeting that no one knows what they're doing. This is the same staff that receives compliments from the independent auditor for the accuracy and completeness of their documentation. Mr. Stamps has railed about the accounting system. This is the same accounting system that is used by many Arkansas municipalities, as well as other cities nationwide, and is considered a premier software for small cities. And yet Mr. Stamps has not availed himself of daily opportunities to talk with staff to understand the accounting system, either through conversations with the staff, the district manager, the accountant, or the auditor. Mr. Stamps has yet to offer a positive suggestion. He wants to cut costs, but he won't say where or when. He sat through the entire budget development process and hopefully observed the impossibility of meeting major maintenance needs with our current income. Perhaps he remembers the deteriorating pool decking that could not be funded, the upgrades to the computerized water system that we could not afford, the boat docks that are sorely needed and yet out of reach, the air conditioners that need replacing, $2.2 million in maintenance and upkeep requests, and we could only fund $400,000. An effective board member takes the time to learn the systems of the organization, understand the reasons for routines and processes, and reviews all information provided to him. Mr. Presley regularly and effectively keeps all board members aware of ongoing projects and problems. He provides the board with easily understandable bar graphs and other charts to track income and expense and assessment collections. He is available at any time to answer questions. Mr. Stamps frequently declares that we must be good stewards of the property owner's money. This board and this staff are good stewards of the property owner's money. I challenge him to work with us. Other board comments?
I had another couple of comments too, because at the end of the meeting last month, I was terribly disturbed by what I heard. When a commissioner was advised of a service fee for using his debit card, he accused the district of gouging property owners. HICID adds 2.5% the transaction cost for credit and debit cards. Card fees are based on the number of transactions, and it is not unusual for public entities where most customers pay by check to pass on these fees. It is an accommodation to accept credit and debit cards. It is not gouging for the district to be reimbursed for these bank charges. And adding to what Commissioner Childers said, he accused the Board of Commissioners of destroying the community. At least he had the good grace to say we, including himself in this outlandish statement. I would like examples and an explanation of that claim. If it was just an angry rant, I would like a retraction and an apology on the record in this meeting.
That won't happen.
Other comments? All right, let's move to commissioner agenda scheduling. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is July the 22nd. If there are other meetings that are to be scheduled, you will receive that information by email notification.
Madam Chair, I think in September, a couple of us are going to be gone for the date of the third Monday. And so I'd like to see a workshop if needed. If we don't need it, fine. But if August, if we could have a workshop, we can start looking at the budget, that would be fine. If not, then I would not be here on the September meeting, the third Monday, but I will be here for the regular meeting. And another commissioner might be gone on the third also. But I'd like to see him. I think the public enjoyed last Monday. We got a lot of information on the marina and insurance rates from the chief, the fire chief, and so forth. So I think when we have a couple hours to have that open discussion, let everybody speak at the microphone for 3 minutes, I think we get a lot of input from the public. And if we don't need it, fine. I can be home doing something else. But I think it's really good to keep communication open.
Well, our next,
Suzanne, I think you said July 22nd.
oh, I did, and it's August, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, August 22nd. Thank you for clarifying that. August 22nd.
So
I
the workshop will be the 15th if we have one.
That's the only scheduled meeting at this time is August 22nd. If another one is scheduled, you'll be notified.
Well, I'm confused because about 6 months ago, we passed a motion, and it's in the regulations and the documents for HICID, that we went to third Monday was a workshop and the fourth Monday was a regular meeting. Now you're saying that there's only scheduled meeting is the fourth Monday.
The work session is if needed. If I mention a date for a work session, then it is considered a scheduled meeting. So therefore, I'm not mentioning anything other than I think it looks bad to the public when it says we cancel a meeting. It's like, looks like we're not doing our job. We are doing our job. There's just no, it's like, Ken, in August, I don't know for sure that the district department managers are even going to be ready to talk about budget. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
May I
Sure.
interject something? I do have my meetings scheduled with the department heads and also my revenue projections, so I kind of have that mapped out. I will not have that ready for the 15th for a work session. In fact, it will be the end of August before all of that occurs. Just adding that to the mix.
So it seems like it would be good to look at those things in September.
Well,
Plus, we're getting closer at that point to knowing about.
well, I just said 2 of us are going to be gone for that, so 3 of you can have that meeting.
But if that's the case, we can certainly schedule it at a different time.
The other thing I think we could have would be a special meeting, and not a workshop, but it's not the third. But we passed that motion, we'd have a third Monday workshop. But the $625,000 check that's going to be coming in, we need a lot of discussion on that. A lot of discussion. And it shouldn't be in a meeting that we have here, where we're here for an hour and a half, 2 hours. That would be an excellent time for a workshop. What are we going to spend that money on? One time kind of thing. And, you know, you mentioned how many million, 2.2 million in needs. and 450, 405 is what we spent. There's 625 that I do not want to go to the rec center. I want it on things that we need in Holiday Isle, big things. And it's $1 million a mile to replace the piping and the blacktop. So I know we're not going to get a mile out of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kenny Dehart said it's $1 million.
Oh, I know,
Did I
I agree.
understand you correctly to say you don't want to spend any of that money for the rec center?
I do say that. I did say that. That's what I meant.
So where would you propose the rec center money come from?
I would say scale it back, get an engineer who knows what they're doing, get the architect to work up those plans. Well, we got 350, and now we're gonna be maybe 500 for a 2,000 square foot building.
Oh, I don't have any bids yet.
I know, but
We need to wait and see, we're putting the cart before the horse. We need to wait and see what the bids come in at, then make a decision.
I will say, Commissioner, I'll be certain to do what you suggested. We'll set aside a separate account. That money will go in there and it will be earmarked until, obviously, the board makes some decisions about how you want to spend it.
But when the rec center was discovered that it was totally incapable of going on as a rec center, and the floors and everything and the mold, then somehow figure 350 came up. 350 came up. I remember that at this
I
table.
remember that.
But now we're saying, we might have to take some of that 625 and put a couple of $100,000 more.
No one has
I'm not
said
for
that.
it. I'm
No
not
one
for
has
it.
said that.
Who told you that?
No one has said that, Ken.
We just said it now.
No,
We
We
just said it
don't
now. It
know.
could be money
We
used.
had
I don't want to
three,
spend it on the rec center, Bob.
didn't
I
we
don't.
I don't want to
designate,
borrow the money.
didn't we designate 350,000?
Mhm.
And before we even knew about the
We put it
625.
aside, Phyllis, we put that money aside,
Right.
don't we?
Right.
Didn't
We
we?
did.
Right, but it was not part of the 625.
Yeah, I know
Okay.
that. But now we're saying it might go above that. Where's that money going to come
Who's
from?
saying that?
Hmm?
No one has said that.
We haven't got bids yet, we don't know.
You don't know.
We don't know. We don't know.
Maybe we can get a real
Oh.
nice one for
Guess what?
200,000.
If I knew that you had 350,000, but you could spend more, and I'm a builder, what do you think I'm going to do with that?
Nobody's telling the bidders that.
I promise I won't throw out a number.
No.
Well, it's on the record, it's on tape, it's on Zoom.
Well,
Well,
Okay.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn? Hear a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Commissioner Surratt has made a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Dyer has seconded. All in favor?
All right.